welcome to episode 21 of Chris Sweeney Talks 2. Today I'm joined by Chris Emms. Now, he's quite an interesting individual. I think he's the first person I've had on this show that's got officially an FBI wanted poster up on the internet. He is wanted, and what he's wanted for, according to the warrant, is specifically conspiring to violate United States sanctions on the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which is North Korea, by working with an American citizen to illegally provide cryptocurrency and blockchain technology services to North Korea. Now, he's not in North Korea. He's not in the USA. He's somewhere else, and we're going to bring him in. Chris, how are you? Well, silly question. I know you're not doing great, but how are you under the circumstances?
Under circumstances, Chris, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
No, brilliant. It's great to talk to you. Well, like I said, you're wanted by the US. Something happened, according to them, something happened in North Korea, but you're not in North Korea. You're currently in Saudi Arabia.
Correct. Yeah, I'm in Saudi Arabia. I've been here for the last 4 months, over 4 months now, actually, just. So I was arrested and detained here based on an Interpol red notice issued against me by the United States government. And currently I'm fighting every day, every hour, every minute for my ability to leave here.
So are they, for people maybe that are not legally minded, is it almost like they're trying to extradite you from Saudi Arabia straight to America? Is that what the US are trying to do?
Correct. So the way in which international arrest warrants work is in certain countries, like let's take the UK where you are. The UK has an extradition treaty with the United States, which governs if the United States wants to charge someone with a crime and have them face justice in the US. There's a specific treaty or law, if you like, that goes through that process. In some countries, such as Saudi Arabia, there isn't an extradition treaty. So what a government will do is they'll issue what's called a red notice, which is issued by Interpol, which is a intergovernmental, if you like, organization that basically requests that the country that person is in, that when they cross any kind of international border or even when they're in the country, that they're detained and then go through a process of extradition. So that's why I'm stuck here.
And it's slightly ironic because, I think most of us think of Saudi Arabia as maybe not the freest society, you know. We can obviously, they've got their own politics, their own culture, and we'll respect that, but it's not the freest place. But ironically, that's where you're sort of fighting for your freedom. It's slightly ironic, isn't it, in some ways? The fact that you're a British passport holder and you were trying to return to the UK.
Absolutely. I think that the greatest irony of the case here is actually the authorities here have treated me very, very well. I've been treated at every level with great respect and kind of following a process here, which I think we could argue specifically with my case in the US. I haven't been treated that way by them whatsoever.
Yeah, and just before we get into your case, so it's a day-to-day in Saudi Arabia. Are you allowed to go out, go shopping, go to the movies, go for a meal, or have you got to stay within a certain sort of locale?
No, not at all. Since I was granted bail, which was on the same day as my detention, I'm allowed to go absolutely anywhere within the borders of Saudi Arabia. So I can travel freely within the country.
Right. Well, I think most people are dying to know. So, let's put a bit of meat on the bones here. So you're a cryptocurrency expert. Is that essentially you're one of these guys that knows a lot about cryptocurrency? You're a bit of a technology buffing, shall we say? You're your stuff around the crypto world. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I guess that's one way to say it. I think the term expert is probably a bit stretching it. I've been involved in the industry for a long time, since 2016. However, I couldn't write a line of code if you asked me to. I've always sat more on sort of the business development side of things rather than a coder. But yeah, I have been labelled by the United States as an expert, which maybe is quite flattering in one respect. But I wouldn't quite label myself as someone that could give you the codes to making yourself very, very rich.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't realize you were more sort of the application of cryptocurrency as opposed to the actual sort of the computer part of it. So you're more the sort of application and business side. I didn't realize that myself.
Correct. Yeah. So I've been involved in the industry solely in business development roles, and I had my own company for a while, but that again was in a business development role. I've never ever written a line of code in my life, and I don't think I'd be able to. I'm definitely not that smart.
Right. Okay. Well, I didn't realize that. Well, in that role, I'll maybe give people a brief summary, and then you can sort of, you can sort of put things. So you get invited to speak at a conference in North Korea. You go over to North Korea, and when you're there, they sort of make you more prominent on some of the literature than you were. You know, you weren't organising, you weren't given a serious role, but the literature sort of bills you a bit higher than maybe your input was, for whatever reason that was. You do your stuff there, you leave, you try to sort of maybe, I think, clarify things in the proper channels, sort of, you know, when you come back to the UK, and then all of a sudden you go to Saudi Arabia and you're hauled in for basically helping. I think they're accusing you of helping North Korea learn about cryptocurrency to beat American sanctions, and showing them the sort of inside inner workings. I think that's what they're alleging you did. I know I'm making it a bit more colloquial than it needs to be, but I think is that the general story?
Yeah, in a nutshell, just to be clear, they're actually accusing me of giving North Korea very detailed information on how to do that, which, you know, having given you a bit of my background, is not something that, even if I wanted to do, I'd probably be capable of doing. So that's it. But the real sort of question around this is, as you said, when I came back to the UK, having attended, I engaged with British authorities. I was even interviewed by them eventually, after quite a long period of time of no one contacting me. They found that I wasn't guilty of any crime under British law or international law. And I'm specifically being accused by America of violating a law which clearly is only applicable to American citizens under their law. So, you know, I haven't committed a crime in the UK. I have a British passport. I don't have an American one. I've never been a resident of the United States. I haven't committed a crime under international law, but I'm still stuck in this situation.
Yeah. So tell us about the conference in North Korea, because I think most people are thinking, right, it's not the most common place you would have a conference. You know, it's obviously a bit isolated, a bit of a the hermit kingdom, I think some people refer it to. You know, it's obviously cut off. So when you got invited there, was there any sort of warning signs? Did you think twice about it, or was it quite a standard thing to be invited to a place like that?
Yeah, so it's a good question, Chris. To be honest with you, at that point in crypto, which is, we're going back now 2019, so that seems like a lifetime away. A lot of people that I'm sure are watching this probably hadn't even heard of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency by then. It's really over the last 3 years that it's kind of blown up into this big thing that's on all the news. Yeah. So back then, you know, I was speaking at. I was spending more time on a plane than I was actually off one. I was pretty much billed as a speaker at many major cryptocurrency conferences. And to be honest with you, we all just thought it was a bit of an adventure. So when I was approached to speak at this conference in North Korea, the first thing I did is obviously check that I wasn't doing anything wrong. So I went on to the, you know, us being British, we're actually really lucky. We have a great resource online when we travel to places that we can access in order to, you know, check what our government thinks about something, or whether we're doing anything wrong. Check that guidance. Didn't see there was any issue with going and speaking at a conference in Pyongyang, albeit it might be a bit of a quirky thing to do. But kind of in my head, I thought this would be a massive adventure. You know, how often does someone actually get to visit North Korea? It's not a regular sort of opportunity that someone has. So that was it. And another thing just to comment on, at the time, there was a lot of publicity. There was a real détente happening between the West, namely the United States and North Korea. I mean, just before we'd gone, maybe a few months before, then President Donald Trump had crossed the demilitarized zone and was hugging the leader of North Korea on the border. So the message didn't seem to be that we were doing anything wrong. It was, you know, we were going somewhere to really, you know, explore it and perhaps see a country that's about to completely radically change.
Well, I mean, and when you get there, so maybe you can tell us, so when you get there, I mean, is the conference quite normal? And at what point, because like I said in my sort of intro there, I think some of this is that, you know, you're saying the US government is billing you as this kind of like, you know, you were almost the organizer and one of the big speakers here, but in your eyes, you just went out in a kind of supporting role. You weren't really as a major contributor. You were just out to do a small part, and that was it. But they've kind of billed you as kind of being an overseer of this event in North Korea.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, this is kind of a laughable accusation, because I'm not a representative of the North Korean government. I don't work for them. Obviously, the other person who's indicted with me, Mr. Caldebenos, is openly that. So I wouldn't have even had the ability to organise, even if I had so wanted to. I wouldn't have had that level of clearance within the country. So, my role was solely really as a speaker, and I was in the same boat as everyone else that was attending the conference. We were all taken around by guides, as you've seen in any sort of documentary you've ever seen on North Korea. We were all shown the kind of the usual sites that you're shown as these kind of
I've seen those. I've seen those tours. You almost go around in a kind of a chaperone tour, don't you? Of various. There's quite a fancy metro station. You've got the statues, and then I think you end up in a karaoke bar. People always seem to end up in as well, or a karaoke club.
We did end up in the karaoke bar. We didn't check to get the metro, but we were told expressly throughout the whole trip, anytime we were out and about, we weren't to communicate with any North Korean members of the public, only people that they sort of prepared for you to meet. None of those people are, those were people like school teachers and a guy who ran a brewery, those kind of people. No one of particular interest that I'd say, you would likely to be recruited or gleaned any sort of information from.
Yeah, I was having a look online, and I'm sure you've seen the report on Vice, and they've got, I suppose, a transcript of what you said, and it's and I'm quoting from the website. It's a great honour to be leading this delegation in Pyongyang to explain to you a bit more about finance, more specifically about blockchain within finance. My name is Christopher Emms, blah blah, and then it goes on to me. You say the great leaders of Kim Il Sung and Kim Jong Il, and I'm going to explain to you about blockchain and how this can be, and how the United States controls the way in which money moves around the world, and this can be very, very unfair. So, I mean, is any of that transcript true, or is that a fabrication of what you said?
So, I think you have to take that transcript in sort of the whole picture of what was going on. So, we should probably just go back to the very beginning of why we went there. So, it was actually in a lot of ways a fascinating place to visit, but also very frightening, and I'll tell you for why. So, when we arrived, we had our passport stamped as you would at any immigration going through in the world. And then just before we left the airport, we had all of our belongings searched. One of the things that they were searching for specifically was images on mobile phones or laptops or any kind of electronic device you had with you. So they went through everyone's devices. Unfortunately, one of the gentlemen attending the conference had decided to, again, I'm not making this up, this is true, but a lot of people probably think I'm crazy by saying it. He brought in let's say a home adult entertainment video.
On his computer?
On his computer.
Oh, right, okay.
So what that did is, as soon as we were taken out of this, airport situation, all of our passports, everyone involved was confiscated based on the fact that this gentleman had done that. So actually, it was an incredibly scary time after that for most of us. There was a lot of gallows humor going around when you're having your food and stuff in the hotel. But we were pretty much told quite often with the guides that that we had to remain respectful, that when we got to this conference, that we better remain respectful and not say anything negative about the regime. It wasn't said directly that way, but it was implied very much so.
Kind of undertone of watch your step. Don't step out of line, kind of thing. Yeah.
So we're in this room, and before we're going in, they're all saying, but we hope this goes well, because we're in a lot of trouble for this video. So when I'm sort of speaking there, I want to make it very clear. I'm speaking there because I'm trying to be gracious and nice to people, because I haven't got my passport, and there's a bunch of other people. So it's always, I think, important that you have the context of what I'm saying. And why I was delivering it in that way.
Of course, I think they can all sort of look at what you said, and then when you put that context, it's all very well us having a laugh and a joke about North Korea, but I guess when you're there, you haven't got your passport, and it's a different story, isn't it? I'm sure things change instantly when you're actually in North Korea. You've got no passport, and there's sort of military people around you, or security personnel, or whatever it may be. Yeah.
You don't want to say anything that's going to put you in harm's way. That's for sure.
Sure. And in terms of the people attending the conference, now who was attending? Was it? I don't know, the North Korean business community. Was it the government? Who was sort of there, sort of attending and listening to you and other people speak?
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that have given comment on this, and I totally agree with everything they've said. So actually, the conference was so boring that people were falling asleep. No one in the room, I'm literally falling asleep, including myself at one point. So no one in the room, to my knowledge, and I think to anyone's knowledge, was any sort of senior ranking official or actually any kind of person working within cryptocurrency within North Korea. It seemed like that these people have sort of been roped out of their, quite mundane day jobs and been told they need to attend here to make the numbers up. It didn't seem that anyone, and to my knowledge, again, I'm not as I say, I wouldn't say I'm a crypto expert. I wouldn't say that anyone was asking any questions that were technically useful. I think most people were as bored as we were at being there. They weren't anyone's senior.
So what you're saying, the kind of discussion about the crypto stuff was quite low level, and I mean that respectfully. It wasn't a very sophisticated discussion. It was quite a low level, basic sort of discussion or presentation. Absolutely.
So we were provided with documents that we were supposed to present from. So that's why all these different speeches had different titles, and most of the people at the conference gave one of these things. Now, all of this stuff was basically copied and pasted from Google, and we were told this has been the approved translated document. Now, what we all found out is this document was about a page long, and they booked quite a significant time that day for this conference. So what you end up doing is you end up speaking a lot, going sort of round in circles on yourself and trying to improvise to deliver as much as possible. But nothing, and I'm 100% sure of this, nothing we discussed you couldn't find on a basic Google search. Absolutely nothing. And that's Chris even backed up. So in Virgil Griffiths, who was sentenced, convicted and sentenced, the American gentleman that attended, a very formidable person in the crypto space is a man called Andreas Antonopoulos, who the US actually called a so-called expert in their document. They call me an expert, but they call an actual expert a so-called expert. But he is an expert. And he's reviewed all of the documents under discovery from Virgil's lawyers. He's had access to everything. And he signed a testimony under oath that none of the content that we delivered was anything that you wouldn't be able to get by just doing a very simple Google search.
And I know it's probably not on the internet, or it's maybe on the internet, but it's not easily searchable. Is there video of your conference? Can this all be, I'm assuming this is all filmed, because it seems everything's filmed nowadays. Is it, have you access to that? Have you got access to what you actually said, or can you not obtain that video?
Absolutely not. So I can't obtain any of that, this supposed evidence against this crime I've allegedly committed. I can't obtain any of that. It would appear that someone in the room was recording this stuff that's come out. They say that, and there was a couple of photos. The one photo that they used in Virgil's sentencing hearing, has me in it, but it's not my handwriting. It's his handwriting. So it's very difficult for us to, challenge anything that's being accused, because there's nothing there that is substantial enough for anyone to comment on at this point.
I see. So, the conference finishes, you pack your bags, you get your passport back, you fly back to the UK, and everything's fine in your mind. But then you decide, I just want to make sure I've not done anything, I've not done anything. So you speak to some British authorities. Is that correct?
Yeah. So at the beginning, I was actually stopped at the airport and asked some very basic questions about where I've been and what I've been up to. And my initial reaction after that, it was a very quick interaction. My initial reaction after that was, I hope I have, I need to make sure that, the authorities know that I'm fully cooperating here. I didn't mean to do anything wrong. I want to make sure my name's cleared. So first thing I did, pick up the phone when I get home, and I rang a sort of a hotline, if you like, for I think it was a British intelligence hotline. I said, look, this is my number. At the time I was living in London. This is my address in South London. You can come and anytime, please call me, ring me, come see me. More than happy to discuss anything with you. And there was absolutely nothing. Until the next thing we really heard was in November 2019, so November of the same year, when Virgil Griffiths was arrested at LAX airport, traveling to the US for Thanksgiving with his family. And bear in mind, Virgil was not someone I knew particularly well. I'd never met him until the day of the conference, and sort of any interactions we had, we'd never ever met up again. And we weren't bosom buddies or anything like that.
Just put people the picture on Virgil. There's a cryptocurrency, Ethereum, and he's kind of one of the sort of main guys behind that. So he's quite a big, but he's on the computer side of it. Am I correct? He's so, I mean, he's a kind of he's a bit different from yourself.
Yeah. So to my understanding, Virgil is, and again, I'm not a developer, but my understanding is Virgil is a very talented developer. And hence why he had such a senior role at the Ethereum Foundation. So yeah, I think that's Virgil, as opposed to me that couldn't write a line of code, as I said.
And so so you hear about him getting arrested, and then does that give you a bit of a warning that, well, hold on a minute here, maybe everything's not okay with this situation, although I think it is.
Well, yeah. So my initial reaction there was, again, wanting to be as compliant as possible. So I actually rang a friend of mine in the US. I said, I need a lawyer who can, please engage with the US authorities on my behalf. And if they want me to come in, they want me to clarify anything, they want to question me or anything, let's arrange for that to happen. So I did that. And the lawyer reached out to the United States authorities, and they said they had absolutely no questions for me. So absolutely nothing. Until sort of around things sort of heated up around last summer, so 2021, so last summer, and then it became more apparent that perhaps they wanted to have something more to do with me. Again, my advice from my lawyers and all of the consultants that I tell you is a very significant expense. Unfortunately, I didn't become crypto rich like a lot of people. So all my life savings have gone on lawyers and consultants at this point for this, that, and the other to try and help solve the situation. But the advice was very clear that this is you've cooperated with the British authorities to the fullest extent that you can. You've done everything. You had no charges brought against you since 2019. It's 2021 now. If the British government wanted you, you've traveled across Europe extensively. There's no reason that we can suspect that number one, you've committed any crime, because you're not American. So this guy's committed a crime under American law, under a US executive order that you're not subject to. And number two, we from the evidence that you've supplied us and what you've told us, we don't feel that you're guilty of anything. Here we are.
And the situation you're in now, so you were in Saudi Arabia speaking at another cryptocurrency conference. So where had you flown from to get there? Because my question is, when you got on the plane to go there, why did this not become evident before you? Why did it happen in Saudi Arabia and not at your point of departure for Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, another really good question, Chris. So actually, it was just a general technology conference, and I was here because it was a conference called LEAP, which is the first ever major Saudi Arabian technology conference. So I was really interested to attend just to see. There's a lot of talk. I'm based was based, hopefully will be again in Dubai in the UAE. And there's a lot of talk, especially in this region, but I think globally, about what the Saudis are calling Vision 2030, which is their plan to create a tech revolution within the country and within the world, across the world even. So that kind of piqued my interest to attend. So what seems to have happened is that the United States have not performed. They knew full well that I was in Dubai living. They knew full well that I traveled a lot, but it doesn't seem that they actually indicted me until I was within Saudi Arabia, or issued any sort of red notice, which they could have done. So the assumption is that the reason that I wasn't detained on leaving Dubai, which I think most people I speak to are saying, look, in Dubai, it's highly unlikely that the authorities there would have taken this further. Because it's the basis of dual criminality. Is it a crime in the UAE? No. Is it a crime in the UK? No. So that's not the case. However, for some reason, it would appear that the American government felt that in Saudi Arabia they'd have a stronger chance of getting me, which is why they issued the indictment and then the subsequent red notice.
Right. So you didn't really know this kind of sort of sword of Damocles was hovering above your head, and then they waited till you were in an environment where they could bring it down, and this is why you're stuck in Saudi Arabia. Whereas if you'd known that, you might not have gone to Saudi Arabia, because you obviously don't want to end up in this situation.
Absolutely. It's not the ideal situation to be in, but I had absolutely no idea whatsoever that this, as you said, this sword of Damocles would fall on me. My understanding that is if you charge someone with a crime, then you should let them know that you've charged them with it. rather than find out. And to be fair, when I was actually detained, you know, I didn't know why I'd been detained, and the authorities couldn't really give me any specific information.
So was this all at the airport? Were you waiting to board the plane back to Dubai, and all of a sudden, you know, you weren't getting on, basically? Was it one of those kind of things where people were talking and you're taken to the side and that's it?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I went to the airport, as you do. I hadn't slept much the night before, so I was looking forward to a nice strong coffee in the lounge. I got to the airport, checked my stuff in, as you do, went to the passport control, and that's where there was a long sort of process of them trying to figure out why my passport wasn't going through. Then I was subsequently arrested in the airport, detained in the airport, taken to another facility to be interrogated, taken back, and then released on bail. So that was the experience that I had.
I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, in terms of like I'm assuming you're in it looks like you're in a hotel.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm not asking which one, but in terms of your day-to-day expenses, are you having to pay all that yourself? Because it must be very expensive you've been there, 4 months now? I mean, it must be fairly hard to pay for hoteling and food and all that, and have no income or little income, because that's not where you're based. Obviously, you can't work to the full way you were.
Absolutely. So my work is quite right. It's completely dried up over the last 4 months, as you can imagine. The other thing that the US did is on the date they released the indictment, is they froze all of my bank accounts internationally. So that's all of my accounts in the UK, the UAE, anywhere that I bank. I can't get access to any of that money or anything. I don't even have a working debit card. So really, I'm relying on the grace of friends and family, really, just to help me cover my day-to-day expenses, really. So yeah, it's you know, a lot of people may think, oh, you know, that's fine for you. You're not in prison. You know, at least you can walk out and about. But trust me, as you know, Chris, you've got experience with the Gulf. It's not the cheapest place in the world. You can't just go down to a local restaurant and, you know, it costs you an arm and a leg. So, you know, it really, for me, this is like being under house arrest, because you don't have any resources to do anything. So arguably it may be worse than prison. At least in prison, you get your bed and board. Here, I'm having to struggle to afford that. Yeah,
no, I mean, as I said, it's a high cost of living. I mean, you're having to provide everything. I mean, you're there without, you know, your clothes. I mean, you know, I assume you've got a bag of clothes and that's it. I mean, it's not, it's no laughing matter. It's no laughing matter, you know.
Absolutely. I'm looking over my head right now, just looking at the one case that I have for the clothes that I packed for a week trip that has sort of been gradually recycled, with a few trips now and then to H&M to add other cheap items to your arsenal of stuff.
Sure. I mean, I think the one thing people were saying, that, you know, this chap Virgil Griffiths, who was, you know, sort of big time in Ethereum, he pleaded guilty to violating US law, money laundering, using cryptocurrency and sanctions to help North Korea beat the US sanctions and all that kind of stuff. So he pleaded guilty to it. Did you see him? I'm assuming you didn't see him do anything. So was this all? He's obviously taking the blame. He obviously feels that he's done something wrong. So people would say, well, you were at that conference. Did you see anything? You know, I guess that must be some people maybe getting a link between him pleading guilty and saying, well, if you were there as well, you must be guilty as well. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm sure people are thinking that, or maybe posing the questions to you. Yeah,
that's again another good question, Chris. I mean, for me, the fact of Virgil's guilt, for me, doesn't come into it at all. I'd rather not get into he said, she said, or what is he guilty of or not. The fact is that I'm not an American citizen. So if I was being accused of violating a United Nations directive, or any kind of British law, or any kind of Saudi law or UAE law to do with any of this stuff, then I'd understand it. And as I've said very publicly, if that's the case and someone wants to charge me with something of that ilk, and, you know, can provide the evidence to prove I did it, even though I'm pretty sure that I absolutely haven't done anything wrong, you know, I'll put my hands up to it. But no one's done that. So, you know, the whole point of this case, for me, it's incredibly scary, because, you know, in British, we've just had, as you're British as well, you're in London. So, you know, we've had this whole experience of Brexit recently, and we've been told that Brexit was about taking back our sovereignty, taking back up control, all of this kind of rhetoric that was issued by the proponents of Brexit. But for me, it strikes me very, very odd that if that's the case, why am I being I'm actually being convicted of a crime that's solely applicable to Americans as a British person. So regardless as to what happened with Virgil, regardless to Virgil's guilty plea, he's American, he's in an American court, he's pled guilty to an American crime. I'm British, I'm not in America. There's no evidence to suggest that I ever committed any of these crimes on American soil. So why should I be accused of this crime, and why should I be convicted for it? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. That's my view. Otherwise, as I've said again publicly, otherwise I think we really need to look in the UK at teaching American law in British schools, because clearly we're all subject to it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally understand. I mean, I was just posing the question because I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking it. So, I mean, in terms of where you stand now, so are you just fighting it legally to sort of get this arrest warrant dropped? Is that what you're focusing on? Because you're in a bit of a limbo at the moment. I guess you can't leave. And if you go to America, you don't know what will happen over there.
Yeah, so my only request is that the Saudi authorities allow me to travel back to the UK, where we have an extradition treaty, which I'm confident that I'll win the case in the UK. That's all I want to happen. All I want is to have a fair hearing in my own country as to whether or not I should be sent to the United States. So we're fighting really for that right. The other thing we're doing is also we strongly believe that the Interpol red notice that was issued was not issued correctly. That that there isn't any grounds to this. That this is purely a political game here for the United States to flex its muscles and try, as we've seen the massive crackdown on cryptocurrency happening in the US, to really sort of show that the US is the global superpower that decides if someone does something wrong, no matter who they are or where they're from, that they can get them. And then the third thing we're doing now is actually this week we're taking our case to the United Nations, to the Tribunal of Arbitrary Detention, because we strongly believe that I've been held here for 4 months. The United States are yet to send an extradition pack to Saudi Arabia. They're yet to send any evidence to prove their allegations. So I'm really being stuck here without, number one, knowing exactly what I've been accused of doing. I know the charge, but I don't know exactly what evidence there is to suggest that I did do, apart from some very basic statements that were contained in the red notice. So yeah, we're just fighting basically for the Saudis to allow me to travel onward back to the UK, so that I have no doubt that in the UK I'll have to go through the extradition proceedings that are governed between the US and the UK. But I'm more than happy to do that, and I'm confident that I'll win.
Yeah, I mean, it seems such unnecessary when you like you say you're happy to be part of this, because I mean, as I said at the start there, I mean, you've got this wanted by the FBI, online thing, and it's got your date of birth, your hair color, your weight, your race, and it's saying that you're known to reside in the UAE and was known to be in Saudi Arabia in or about March of 2022, and it's like, well, you're on this podcast here. I'm sure I think you've done other ones. I mean, there's no big debate. You're not trying to you're pretty same where you are. I mean, there's no this is known to be he's telling you he's in Saudi Arabia. It does seem a little bit odd that they're creating this idea of you're this sort of master criminal, and we're arguing what you're doing when you're quite open where you are, and you look willing to engage.
Absolutely, Chris. So to give you a bit more color on that one, which has obviously been it's the one thing you don't want your mother to see. Prior to it being released, they actually contacted the British Embassy, then let me know that the US was saying, we know where he is, however, we're going to release this wanted poster. Now, to my understanding, you, as a law enforcement agency, you issue a wanted poster when you're trying to find someone to know where they are. They know exactly where I am. They know exactly that I'm in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. They've been fully made aware of that by the British authorities, and I'm sure the Saudi authorities have told them as well. So issuing a wanted poster against me just seems like a very bizarre thing to do. I'm not sure what it achieves really, apart from make me look even worse than they've already made me look.
Yeah. And I mean, we're having a wee laugh here about the poster, and we're trying to keep upbeat. But I mean, this is a serious thing. I mean, for your own mental health and this must be quite. I mean, I'm sure you must lie in bed at night, and sometimes sort of your thoughts must run away with you, because I mean, you're in a very difficult position. I mean, I assume you're traveling alone as well. You don't have people with you. I mean, it's not it's still, as I said before, it's no laughing matter, really.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, it's a very difficult situation. I won't say I haven't had my dark days. They come and go. I'd say at the beginning they were very dark. Now, I think as human beings, hopefully, I hope that no one who's watching this ever ends up in a situation like this. But it is amazing how much your body and your mind can adapt to situations. So I'm glad that I may have gone low, but now I'm in an okay place. But yeah, I mean, and just the obviously the reputational damage that's been done. I mean, as I've said to other people, and I'll say to you, for me, I've got no career ahead of me in crypto anymore. No career ahead of me in this, because the damage is done. Because unfortunately, the way the world works is very often, if you're accused of something, even if, as we've seen in the past with a lot of other cases, even if you're accused of something and you're proven innocent, it's very difficult for people to forget. People will always have that inkling in the back of their mind that, maybe he did do it. So the damage is done. For me, the thing is just trying to think. Right now, it's as you said, it's this kind of limbo situation. I can't really move on with my life, so I've got no ability to sort of mentally cross that bridge to go, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do with my life next. That's not there anymore. I'm just kind of stuck in this sort of not literal prison, but mental and physical prison, being stuck in Saudi Arabia, where unfortunately I don't know anyone, which I think was part of the game as well. Unfortunately, I don't have any connections in Saudi whatsoever. A lot of other countries in the world I have connections, but here there's no one I can even sort of meet up with for a drink and have a chat. Really, it's just me on my own.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds horrendous. I mean, sort of. I was thinking about sort of, obviously, very different circumstances, like someone like Edward Snowden or Julian Assange, and they get sucked into similar situations where they were kept in limbo. And I mean, Julian Assange is still in limbo in a London jail. I don't even know. I think he's been extradited and it's been overturned and it's been appealed. And I couldn't tell you where he is. And Edward Snowden's been in Russia for the last, maybe 10 years? Maybe not as much as that, but it seems a recurring thing with the American government to sort of get people in this kind of limbo thing and then destabilize them, and then the person's almost left kind of, sort of not defenseless, but in a very vulnerable position.
Yeah, Chris, I think that's definitely part of the strategy. Having gone through it myself, I think really this strategy, this situation, honestly, it's you can clearly see how it's designed to break a person, because if you're sat in prison, even though I spent very little time in jail, and obviously emphasizing again that I was treated very well here actually, but when you're sat in prison, at least you're there. You're going to be there for a determined amount of time, and then one day you'll get out. But when you're not in prison and you're being sort of hunted and they're throwing press releases at you, they're throwing this at you, no one can give you an answer as to what the next stage is and when you're going to get there. It's really a horrific experience. So yeah, I think it's designed to really break you. And again, bringing up the Assange case, to my knowledge, we should find out this week whether he's being extradited to the US. But again, he had a worse time of it than me. I'm as I said, it's not that nice, but I can go out and about and really travel within the country. He's been locked up in jail, which I can't imagine what in the worst kind of conditions, which I can't even imagine. But yeah, it seems like this is a very tried and tested tactic from the US. And I think, unfortunately, due to the Assange case and the fact that it's gone on for so long, it's emboldened them to try this with everyone. Because to be honest with you, I would hope that people watching this will see that I'm no Assange. I'm nowhere near as high profile. I'm nowhere near as provocative. But they've gone after little old me with the same tactics, which for me is, it's crazy. The one thing that has being high profile has helped him, I guess, because it's kept his case in the, and like I said, there's been so many flip flops. He's been appealed, he's not appealed, he's been, it's been going on for so long. But I mean, it's, it's difficult. I mean, two questions to quickly ask you was, in terms of the British government or British embassy out there, I mean, how much are they helping? And also the North Koreans, I mean, because obviously they were at this conference, can they not just send you a video or speak about things? Well, this is what happened. I mean, it seems like, could they not clear all this up for you? Or, because to me, they seem your 2 points of contact that would surely get you out of this. Yeah, so I'll start with point one. So the British Embassy, first thing I did when I was detained is I called them. And actually, the case officer that I have in Saudi, she's been really good. She calls me every week, checks how I am. But the problem really with the British Embassy is, they've made it clear that they will not in any way interfere with the local process here. So all they can ever do is sort of lodge a concern for my welfare. In the UK, my local MP is Crispin Blunt. who's a Conservative MP. So Crispin's actually been very good. He contacted the Saudi ambassador in the UK to raise his concerns. And again, the trouble is, unless someone high up within the British government, which I would love them to do, actually contacts the Saudi authorities and, says, hey, look, let this guy go. He's not, you're not putting him in prison for anything. Clearly after 4 months, you really don't know what to do with him, and you've got no grounds to send him to the US far. Yeah. Send him back to us. That would be wonderful. In terms of the North Koreans, I don't know anyone in the North Korean government. I'm not affiliated with the North Korean government. So there's no, even if I wanted to, which I wouldn't recommend. I think after we came back from this conference, it's become far more clear exactly how evil this government is in terms of the things that they were doing with cryptocurrency, which we had no idea about. The world wasn't. I highly doubt that anyone would have gone to the conference if we'd have known about the hacks that the hacks to cryptocurrency exchanges they've been involved in. So I wouldn't want to approach them anyway. But even if I wanted to, I really wouldn't know how to get about it. As you said, it's a hermit kingdom. You can't just pick up the phone or drop an email and find someone to talk to. Yeah,
no, I was just thinking maybe an organizer or someone at least could help you, because it just seems the information is all on one side, and you're sort of dancing about, and you're sort of dancing with shadows, if that's a cliche I could use, where you're not really sure what people are accusing you of or what you're supposed to have done. It's very unfair, it seems, because I think any fair legal process, is it full disclosure? I think that's the phrase where both sides see the evidence and you proceed from there.
Absolutely. So that's the biggest problem with this, Chris, is I'm stuck here. The US have not yet sent, and after 4 months, it's a very long time not to send anything. They haven't sent any of the evidence that they're required to send to the Saudi authorities that I'm then required to answer. They haven't sent any of that evidence. And as I said, no one at this conference that I'm aware of was actively filming or taking photos or recording, apart from clearly someone that passed evidence on to the US authorities. So I've got no way of defending myself, because I haven't got the evidence in order to defend myself that I can defend myself against, because it's not been provided.
Yeah, sure. And just finally, Chris, just talking about crypto, because crypto does have in some people's eyes, a negative, a negative image, because of this whole, it's on the blockchain and you don't know who owns what. It's all kind of decentralized, and people say, it's just criminals using it for money laundering and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. I mean, do you think crypto's got a bad reputation? People are not aware of it because it is so new. I mean, like you say, 5-6 years ago, none of us heard about it. Even now, you say it Bitcoin to someone, they may know what you're talking about. They may not know that they may understand it, but it's highly unlikely they know the actual ins and outs.
Yeah, another great question, Chris. So I think when it comes to that, I always say, if you want to launder money, not that I'm an expert at all, but one thing that's always bandied around in the crypto industry, which I quite think is quite a good argument, is really the most laundered currency in the world is cash, namely the US dollar. I think that any laundering happening with cryptocurrency is probably a millionth of a percent compared to compared to other methods used by money launderers. That's obviously just my opinion. I'm no expert in that field, but that's what I'd say. So I think all of this attention on crypto being used as a money laundering mechanism is a bit rich when you look at all of the other things, all the other ways that are used around the world. I mean, I think any form of exchange of value, be that gold, be that anything that you can put a price tag on, has the capability to be used for money laundering. Not just crypto. It could be anything. It could be your car. It could be absolutely anything that you can buy or sell.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's just one of those things that, particularly the older generation, and it's just I think some people don't understand it as much. I'm no crypto expert. I would never sit here, but I see all the stuff about if you're into crypto, you must be what are you buying drugs, or you're trying to launder money. It's got this negative connotation. But you look at major serious investors; they invest in it. The huge hedge funds and investment companies, they're all involved in it. So it's kind of it's got a slightly. I think the image doesn't reflect the reality, but. That's the world we live in some things, isn't it?
I agree with you entirely. I think right now, as I said, the crypto industry has changed in the short time that I've been involved in it. 2016, right? It's not that long in the terms of anyone's career or lifespan, really.
Yeah.
The industry has evolved astronomically, especially in the last couple of years. You've got people like Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, quitting Twitter and going full time into building applications and companies based on Bitcoin. You've got, obviously, we've all seen Elon Musk and his Saturday Night Live sketches and his tweets. It's really, all of the big, to my knowledge, every single big tech investor or tech personality entrepreneur is highly engaged in this space, even given the massive price fallout that we've seen over the last few months in the space. It's got a lot of room to grow. And Chris, we have to remember that a lot of people said these same things about the internet when it started. They're all the same arguments. It's evil, it's going to ruin the world, only criminals use the internet, and how wrong were they?
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, we've all heard of the dark web, but I mean, it's a tiny part of the internet relative to the rest of it. I mean, you're always going to have that element of anything, but I mean, it's all that. But I mean, in terms of people listening or watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, have you got a GoFundMe? Can they help your fight at all? Can they do anything to help you? Is it a petition, or is it basically just offer their goodwill and prayers to you?
Yeah, I mean, goodwill and prayers are lovely. We don't, unfortunately, have a GoFundMe page. I hate taking any kind of form of charity, and I'd rather that your listeners and viewers probably donated the money to a far more worthy cause than my hotel bills. So there's something like that. I think the best thing is, and I know you know her well, and you've had her on your show, Chris, Radha Sterling, who's been absolutely phenomenal, is representing me through this whole thing. So her website is www.detainedindubai.org. And she's written a lot of really, really wonderful articles based on what's happening to me. And there's also a great piece that was published recently in the Times by Hannah Lucinda Smith, who's a quite an accomplished journalist. So she did an interview with me where she really revealed the facts of the case. So sharing, retweeting, just keeping it in the public mind would be great.
Because I mean, if you were this kind of master criminal or a guy who'd done all this, I mean, it would be. I work in media. Obviously, it's unusual for someone to be so open, and we set this up quite simple. Where we're speaking over Zoom. It wasn't too difficult. If you had a lot to hide or you had things to not want to talk, I mean, you didn't say to me before we come on, don't mention this, or I'm only going to talk about this, or blah blah blah. I mean, it seems kind of. Your whole demeanour seems completely opposite that. So it just seems very odd that the US government authorities aren't coming across and saying, right, okay, let's sit down and talk, because you're clearly willing to. It seems a very bizarre situation from the outside,
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm an open book here. I just really want to get this over with and get on with my life. But I'm also not willing to sort of travel to the United States to sit in front of the court for a crime that, number one, I don't think I committed, but number two, even more importantly, I don't think is applicable to me. So that's really my only point of conjecture here. Everyone knows where I am. If you so wish to visit Saudi Arabia and come and have a cup of tea with me, you're more than welcome, anyone. I'm here.
Bring him some clothes. Bring you some clothes. You need to tell us your size and all that, so we can bring you a new pair of t-shirt and shorts.
I take a medium t-shirt from H&M, and I'm a 31-inch waist, I think. So if anyone wants to do me an next H&M order, you're more than welcome. That would be much welcome.
Brilliant. Well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, Chris. I mean, all I can do is hopefully we'll obviously put this out there, but just wish you all the best. I mean, I hope things get better for you, because it's great. You've got a great attitude. You're smiling. You're happy. But I mean, it's not a nice situation for you. I mean, it can't be nice for your family or anyone. It's just not. I think we all hope that it doesn't seem fair. I'm not an expert, but it doesn't seem fair that you're held in this situation. Why should you be? Should we go back to Britain, go through the proper channels, and take it from there?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's all we're fighting for. I'm not asking for much. All I'm asking for is, can I please get on a plane, land in the UK, and be detained and go through the process in the UK. That's all I want. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, well, I wish you all the best, my friend, and thank you so much for talking to me. Take care of yourself.
Thanks very much. Cheers. Thanks, Chris. Thanks so much for your time.